Hi, everyone. I'm Diana White, the Director of Programs and Events at the PGA. It is a pleasure to welcome you to this PGA conversation with the creators of BLINDSPOTTIng. Before we get started today, I would love to give a special thanks to Starz for making this panel possible for the Producers Guild. It is my pleasure to introduce and pass it off to our moderator, Jenelle Riley. Jenelle is the Deputy Awards and Features Editor at Variety and is a three-time Emmy winner for hosting and producing PBS's Actors on Actors. She's also the writer of short films Grand Gestures, Warning Labels, and Crazy Love. Janelle, thank you so much. I will pass it off to you to introduce our two panelists.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel silly when you're listing my accomplishments, and a Grammy Award just went by in the background.
Sorry, we're trying to declutter the desk. There's just chaos over here.
I don't know what you have 3 Emmys.
They're daytime Emmys. It's, you know.
Who doesn't? Yeah.
Well, I suppose our guests need no introduction, but please welcome the two individuals who brought Starz' BLINDSPOTTIng to life on television. We have co-creator David Diggs and co-creator, showrunner, and actor Rafael Casal. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, it's too.
David, tell me about a few of your jobs, because you're the co-creator. You're also a co-creator and showrunner, but unlike Rafael.
I just write things on the
He's a writer on the show. He's an EP on the show. He's got, we both too many hats.
Right. And you also, I understand you trade off craft services.
Yes, periodically, yeah. The peanut butter and jelly sandwich duty.
Yeah. I make a mean fruit cup.
Well, I'd love to start at the beginning, because you obviously wrote and starred in the 2018 film BLINDSPOTTIng, which I think you spent like 10 years on. So at what point did you begin to think of it as a series? Because I've heard you say you didn't really think you would do a series.
No.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't our idea.
It doesn't sound like a good idea. I mean, you know, the transition of especially like an indie film to a show, the success rate is so low that it's just like, you know, I think our initial reaction was like, don't do that. Don't mess up our movie. And we had other stuff we wanted to do, but Lionsgate was really insistent that we take this meeting with them about it. And so I think on the ride there, I think we were late too. On the ride there, we were like, well, let's run this through the obstacle course of like, is there any world in which we would actually make this show? And we came up with like our hard criteria of like, all right, well, we don't really want to be the focal point. Like if it was Jasmine's show, we'd do it. And we could, you know, add a bunch of new characters and have most of them be women, and, you know, we could shoot it the way we want to, and there could be dancing and there could be verse and all the things that we want to do. All right, well, like then that you know, that'd be worth doing. That'd be like an expansion of a thing we were working on, but they'll never let us do that.
We like came up with a pitch that we were sure they would say no to.
Yeah, very rarely do you go into a room and you pitch trying to get them to say no. But being like, because usually you withhold all that stuff back, like all the crazy stuff you want to do, you hide until later and you try to sneak it into the budget. We're just like, let's just say it all up front, because if they don't want to do part of it, then we can do something else. And instead they were really excited about it and wanted to partner on it. And then we had to like seriously consider if that's what we wanted to do. And then when we stepped away and talked to Jasmine about it, suddenly it was this really potentially amazing opportunity. And here we are.
So your advice to fellow producers is to be late, be unenthusiastic about your pitch.
Definitely don't be like us. But I do think the thing that does consistently, or at least that we do consistently come back to, is like, just like say what you want to do, and if they don't want to make that, don't right. Make it with them. Just get up and, you know, and it may take a while longer to make a thing, but I think we consistently have kind of been like, we've never gotten anywhere good compromising the enthusiasm that we have for an idea. So if you start to feel yourself doing it in the room to like appease or try to get an opportunity, you know, maybe not, because you end up having to work on these things for years.
It's so hard, you know, like, I mean, if you're watching a PGA panel, like,
you know,
making television is so hard. We didn't know. This is the first time we've ever done it. It's really hard. It was, I think we were lucky that sort of our first outing of trying to produce TV was with all of our friends, you know, Jess and Keith produced the film. Jess and Keith Calder are still producers on this with us. And so like, we got to do it with all of our friends, and we got to make the exact show we wanted to make. And like, that was very lucky that we sort of, because it was our thing, like had this attitude of like, well, either do it this way, or we can also just not do it. I don't know. The power of no is very real, right? Just being able to be like, we could definitely not do this also, and that's fine. So,
I love the idea of do it right or don't do it, because you are going to be dedicating years of your life to this. I hope. And
I think that's particularly important for like an indie film that has already done the thing you wanted it to do. Is like, you also don't need to like fuck up your projects, you know, to make more of them. Like, I think we just knew that like there was more story to do, and so we leaned into it.
I mean, I love that the show is concentrating on Jasmine's character, Ashley, as the main character, and also celebrating on all these really amazing, strong women. I'm curious, you know, who were some of the women who inspired you? Because I feel like all shows and films are at least a little autobiographical, and you must know some amazing women because they're all over this series.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big, you know, the fun part of adding these new characters in who weren't part of the film. We had already, you know, we fell in love with Ashley, with Jasmine's character on the page, and then like fell way more deeply in love with her once Jasmine like brought her to life. And the real like revelation over the course of making the film was that we had created this like very broed out two-hander that like didn't actually have story space for that character, but like, damn, it should have. Like, she was so wonderful. And so for both of us, I think like that Ashley reminded us so much of a lot of the women we grew up with, who were like very sort of elegantly and gracefully, and also like fiercely tackling like a world that's sort of where the deck is stacked against you. And so we wanted to make more of these women and just put them in the like Bay Area universe that we you know and pull. So yeah, everybody in there has like 3 or 4 touchstones of people from our lives.
Kind of what we do in the writers' room is we have, you know, 3 or 4 comps, and then you know, we stack our writers' room with women, because the biggest problem with us making the show is that we're flipping a property that's about 2 men into a show that's about loosely 2 men and really 4 women. And that was the big challenge, was, okay, well, this is a world that we built and characters that we made. So, you know, we're the right people to transition it over, but also there's a massive, no pun intended, number of blind spots that we have to navigate. And that also just became a unique challenge, because we don't come from TV, really. We come from theater and music. And we're like, well, is there a model in which we can portray these characters authentically and accurately with us at the helm? And let's see if that works. And the muscles we always then go back and lean on are the muscles that we learn in music and theater, which is like egoless collaboration as much as possible. Get as much input and feedback and from the actors and from the writers and from producers. And, you know, there's just like a well of and interviews. I mean, it was a ton of interviews that we did, and had cast meet with people in our lives that were like the characters that we were trying to write. And all of that made it so much. Like, I remember even Helen coming on, like we just had our meet with people, like some of the elders that we grew up around, and even like friends of mine who were dancers, like Trisha's, when they were in their early 20s, and like she met with them and their moms to like, what's the dynamic between mother and daughter at that age, so we could put some humanity to it and not have it sort of just succumb to a bunch of tropes. And I think that process, while wonky and hippie of us, it really has worked out so far.
I mean, you got Helen Hunt to play Miles's mother, which is so amazing. And as I recall, she was a big fan of the movie. Did she actually reach out to you?
She did. She slid in the DMs. That's what she says. I think I slid in the DMs, but I'm gonna let her have this one. yeah, we all just kind of became fast friends after she said she loved the movie. Obviously, we're diehard Helen Hunt fans. Like, it's kind of hard not to be in our age bracket. And you know, we jokingly baited her for a long time into this role and assumed she would never do it. And then she did, and she did under the condition that she had a lot of say in the character, which I think we wanted, and gave so much amazing feedback. Because again, you know, our staff is a bunch of younger people trying to write an older character. That's another place where you don't have as much visibility, and so she gave a lot of context.
Yeah. I think another thing that we kind of lucked into was that our lead, like, you know, Ashley was already cast, right? Because Jasmine was from the film, and then we knew we wanted Helen. So as soon as we had a draft that we weren't embarrassed of the pilot, we like got it to her. So they were on board first, and they were both able to really inform the process of how we like to create these characters, which is like using the actor feedback a lot and letting them, I mean, Jasmine's also a producer on the show, so she obviously gets as much feedback as she wants, but like, you know, with Helen, like having her come in and read scripts early and be like, here are the things I don't buy, and what can we, you know, and the amazing thing about her is she was always like, I want to be able to say the words that you write, so you have to help me find my way into it. And like in that conversation, oftentimes we would realize that the words have to change, that we had missed something fundamental, some like fundamental link in logic that someone who's not our age.
The thrust of a character, there were things that she would suggest that would be within the context of understanding how women in their let's say their 50s are portrayed usually in these stories. And like, we're, you know, we succumb to certain tropes that she's far more aware of, one, like in that body and being sent roles all the time. And so a lot of it was also like, well, how can we invent a character that we truly haven't seen? And so some of it was also benefiting from this like historic knowledge that she has of all the roles she's ever been offered and all the things she's ever watched, having been in this industry for so long. So we've sort of benefited from these two sides of the industry coming together, like a bunch of new, young talent of color in the industry that are like getting some of their first, second, third big jobs. And Helen, who's been doing this for a long time and like knows the bullshit and can call it out really quick, and also just like knows how to show up on set in a way that like we're all learning from. And so her and Jasmine, we call her Ashley all the time accidentally because we can't help it, but you know, Jasmine and Helen like really set the pace for everything.
And then on the flip side, you have somebody like Atticus Woodward who plays Sean, and is such a discovery. I mean, was there part of you that was worried you couldn't do this series if you didn't find this amazing young actor to play Sean?
Yeah, we had obviously an actor who played Sean, Ziggy, who played Sean in the film, who we loved. But you know, we waited a couple of years, and suddenly he's much older and taller. And we were like, oh, we can't cast him in the same role. And so we had to go looking for Atticus, and I think we wanted somebody who could. The great thing about a show, and when we're casting the movie is about Sean, but it's not like a story of Sean. There's like the parental worry of a child, but not from the child's perspective in the same way. And when we knew it was going to come up in the show, it's like, well, we're going to have to like really talk about who this kid is in the world, who he is, that these are his parents, the context in which he grows up in, and all that. And so I think we had because Ziggy had aged out, we were like, well, we had the opportunity to really like peg somebody that would have to go through all the challenges of identity and place and his morale and who his surrounding family is, and all the ways in which that would be fascinating and confusing. You know, as a 6-year-old, and Atticus walked in, and we were like, you know, me and Jasmine were like, yeah, I could buy that this would be our kid. And he's also just like an overwhelmingly joyful child, which I think is more heartbreaking to watch a kid who like exudes positivity and joy have to suffer the injustices of the world that he exists in. And I think it's a nice marker for people watching to go, this shouldn't happen to this kid. By extension, this shouldn't happen to his father, this shouldn't happen to his mother, this shouldn't happen to this family. So he becomes this like phenomenally essential part of the emotional investment of the audience. And like, he's just so fucking cute. You know, like,
he's also like coming for my neck on the fashion front. He'd be showing up to set
Styling.
Just
styling. Shoe game on point. Shirt game on point. Yeah, Addy.
I know. He's such a
also
little professional.
a little curious, like just a light to have on set all the time. Just comes in every day. Hello, David. Hello, Rafael. How are you doing this morning? Hello, sir.
Yeah, he's such a pro. He says he learns everybody's name, like everybody. He says hello to everyone, like when he sees them. It's just like, oh, you're demonstrating to all of us how to be on set.
Just the best. Man.
We're going to be working for him someday.
Absolutely.
I'm sure.
So the film earned raves for mixing, realism and surrealism by having these moments where you go into spoken word. But how do you do that on an episodic basis? Like in the writer's room, do you have to just find places where it's organic? And forgive me for not knowing, because I have enough trouble being good at one thing. So having your writers being like, do they sort of turn over the spoken word part to you, or do they actually write that themselves as well?
Season 1, we did it mostly on our end. I mean, I think it's be a tall order to reach out to writers and be like, also, can you rap? And are you a poet? And do you understand how to write dance choreography in a script? And some people have different levels of it. Obviously, Ben Turner, who plays Earl on the show, the verse that he does in episode 5, Across Town, he wrote entirely himself. I think the rest of it was between David and myself. And I think Ben helped with there's a little section in the end thing in episode 8 that he did. And yeah, but I think mostly we try to get the traditional story down. And then sometimes it's like we take stuff out and go, oh, this doesn't actually need to be a scene. This could just be a movement piece. And it'll communicate all of that. Or Bucket Books will suggest stuff.
Yeah, sometimes they'll read a script, our choreographers, and say, oh, we have a really good idea for a dance moment here. And we'll sort of shape that around it. I mean, it's cool. It's a really fluid system in a lot of ways, I think, in ways that are not always common in TV, because it does move really fast when you're making a TV show, but we try to leave space for discovery still, and like have, the big dance number that happens in episode 4 in season 1, that is the end of 4.
Through the House.
Through the House was a last minute change. We weren't going to end the episode that way.
We had a bad ending.
The ending wasn't great anyway. And then, and I think, Rafael, you found a video of someone like dancing through a house that looked not dissimilar from our house.
I saw this shit on Instagram on this, like, it's called like Film Dance or Dance Film account that I love. And there was this beautiful piece of this woman dancing through a house. And I was like, it was this like very different style of dance, but the emotional arc of it was so beautiful. And I think I showed it to David and was like, I mean, we could do some shit like this. It was like a great moment of like art speaking to each other and being like, we should show this to Buck and Boogs and see if this moves them. And then they saw it and were like, oh man, we could like,
Yeah. We were basically like, can you tell the story of Miles and Colin growing up together in this house? And they were like, bet, come back in an hour.
And like an hour later, we had this whole thing through the house. And then we brought in Taryn, our DP, and who directed that episode? That's Aurora.
Yeah.
Came in, and the two of them are like, mocking the movements of the camera on their iPhone as these guys dance to some other piece of music to like set it all up. And we were going to shoot it the next day. So that night, our composers,
we sent their piece of music, their temp music to the composers.
Ambrose and Michael.
Ambrose,
3 hours later, the music was done, and then we shot it at like noon the next day. It's still one of my favorite things that happens in season 1. But I think a lot of those things, there's no comp. We don't have a good comp for how to do these things. I mean, the closest things I can think of are like, for the verse stuff, obviously it's the high fidelity, Fleabag, House of Cards, these moments where like people acknowledge the camera, and that's been going on for a very long time. Like direct address in theater, we've seen it a million times, so we've tried to do our own verse version of it. And then dance, there's so many different ways that it's been done, but I don't know that we ever found a good comp for like a chorus, like a repeating chorus in a show. And so we just kind of had to figure it out as we went. And to me, really, like by the time we had episode 4 is the first time I'm like, all right, we're really getting the hang of this.
And obviously we have to talk about Oakland, because it's a cliche to say it, but it really is a character in the show. And I believe you cast quite a few locals. How important was it to film in the Bay Area, and how does that help lend to the show's authenticity?
Yeah, it's super important. And, you know, we would love to have shot all of it there. The COVID situation made that impossible, but we were able to shoot almost all of our exteriors there. And even, you know, we've learned a lot and are trying to be like more selective of how we shoot up there, because like it's difficult and the time is difficult, but what you get in return for the time you spend up there is just like, it adds a layer of not even just authenticity, kind of it grounds the fantasy in a way to me, because like that place it's just different. It's just different. And like you can't really recreate it on a soundstage, and nothing in LA is like it actually, you know, so it's just different. So even like the vibe of the people who are off camera, you know, it's just different, and you feel it to me on the screen. So getting to shoot up there and pick and choose the moments that are really where we can really see something, you know, like there's a shot in the first season that's just Jasmine and Rafa sitting on top of a hill looking out over the whole bay. And that's just like, we used to, like, as kids, like that's where you go to make out with your first girlfriend, you know, like but like, I love that shot so much, like, because we get to really see it kind of sets the fantasy world that we're living in, and it's a real place, but it feels like you're looking at Narnia or something.
Yeah, in terms of the casting, I mean, there's like a lot of different ways in which we have so many different ways that we try to insert Bayness into the show. Some of it is that like a lot of our supporting cast is from the Bay. Lance, who plays Cuddy, April, who plays Jackie, Margot. Candace is from SAC, so she's like North Campus. Obviously me and David, and then a lot of folks that we're bringing for like 1 or 2 episodes. It was like in episode 4, all the people that are on the date with Jenelle are all like comedians from the Bay that we brought down. Stroy plays in the first episode and in 4, and then we're also like, we're surrounding them with Bay music, you know, consistently, and a lot of the brands that they're wearing are all Bay brands, and you know, we're trying to use local vendors as much as possible. And you know, a lot of when we're shooting inside of a location in the Bay, or even when we're building a set to replicate the Bay, like our bowling alley in episode 7 is Albany Bowl. Albany Bowl closed before we could shoot there. It shut down in the pandemic. So that episode is a big homage to Albany Bowl, where a lot of us grew up bowling and having birthday parties and shit. And Marcus Books in episode 2, and a number of other ones that are like places. We talk about Luca's Lounge in episode 2 that Nancy's coming back from. Luca's Lounge is closing now, is like gonna close in the next month or 2 because of the pandemic, and they've been around for 18 years. Our billboard for season 1 was on top of their bar, which was like really, really important to us. And these are the little things that like we'll outline on our Instagrams and stuff, but it's not really for the mass to catch. It's just kind of the sum of the parts.
Yeah.
And so I feel like local audiences catch 2 of the 10 in every episode, and that makes them feel good. But it surrounds and envelops the cast and the crew and everyone, and I think it comes out the other end feeling, you know, like it couldn't have happened anywhere else because of it.
Now, I see you have like what looks to be a blackboard behind you, and everything has been erased. I was hoping it might have season 2 spoilers.
It's actually a cork board that my partner Emmy realized you can just paint those any color you want. So spray painted it green.
We both have our empty cork boards behind us in our offices.
That means we're done with scripts.
Yeah, that means we're no longer storyboarding. We are now on the page. No, there'll be no spoilers. But I think right after this, we're gonna do our first little read through with Jasmine of the first 2 episodes to hear how it sounds when she does it, and see if what we need to change.
I left off when listing all of your jobs. You directed the season finale, Rafael.
Yeah.
Will you be back to direct more in season 2?
That's what they're telling me. I think I'll get to direct a nice chunk of this season, which will be fun. And we have a few other directors that we're excited to come on. I don't think we can talk about yet, but no, I think we really watched a bunch of other brilliant directors come on season 1 and help us figure out what the show was. Which was really exciting, and I love directing. I love the path between David, Jess, Keith, Jasmine, some of our other like main creatives on the show, and that direct pipeline to me on set, and getting to have the shots and the ideas come out the way that we plan them in the writer's room. I think like so rarely do you get such a direct path. And so there's so many shows that I admire that have had that direct path when people are ready. I think Better Things is a good example of that. I think I love the way that she's run that show and created an environment that feels like it really comes from the heart of the people that are making it. And I think we aspire to that when we're prepared, when we're capable. So I think season 1, it was like, let's let everyone else do it, and then I'll do this last one, and hopefully we'll see how it goes. But we had so much fun with it, and so I think we're going to try to get more of that this season.
Well, I can't wait to see what's in store for season 2. Before we go, can we see the Grammy one last time? They're bigger than I thought.
Probably put it over
here.
It
actually goes over there.
Don't drop it. It's got a lot of weight to it.
It is heavy. Oh, okay. I wasn't sure.
There's shots out of it later.
Well, again, thank you so much for being here. I want to remind everyone they can see all of season 1 on Starz. And again, congratulations on a great show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's good to see you again.